happens here. Are we live? And we are live, back for episode 169 of our regularly scheduled Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time of Behind the Toolbelt. I got a special guest, Mike Goldenstein, and we will be back after these short messages.
Roofers, you want at least 5 solid lead gen tactics building chemistry. Let's say you have door knocking, referral systems, job site branding, and you add in aggressive SEO, paid ads, and boom! Smells like more leads. Hookagency.com.
We're back.
Oh, are we back?
Yeah.
We got kicked out?
Yeah.
Okay, well then here we are. We're back.
You got kicked
Back
out.
in action. We got kicked out. Sorry, Tim Brown.
It
Sorry,
happens.
Sydney. But we'll maybe try back later on that. But anyhow, that's what happens. That's technology. You got to kind of roll with the punches. And I think that might even be one of our topics tonight. But getting back to my new friendship with Mike Goldenstein. We've been traveling quite often. Who would have thought? It wasn't planned for us to be traveling together, but you seem to be one of the ride or dies. I thought we were the only crazy ones that was doing every single freaking roofing conference on the planet. But ROOFLE, Mike Goldenstein, Travis Michael, D, all of you guys were ride and die out there for your brand, our brand. And what we did was a little bit different than what you guys did. But we weren't necessarily selling anything other than our ass. But you guys were trying to sell your product and what a good product it is. So Mike, how the hell's it going, brother?
Yeah, it's been great. I don't know if it was a sprint or a marathon or both, but it has been 100 miles an hour and it feels like it goes on forever. But show season kind of seems to be coming to an end, and I'm looking forward to spending a little bit of time at home for a while, I think.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Me too, man. That's here we're back down in Austin right now, and I got to keep thinking because we've been in Texas 3, maybe 4 times in the past 8 weeks, maybe. I think seems longer, seems shorter. I don't know, but I think we're in Austin. We're at today's Wednesday, of course, obviously that's why we're going live tonight. But Austin, Texas, at the GAF Wealth Builders, and super excited. It's my first one here. So we got the team down here. We got Vic, we got Glenn. John's on his way from Iceland. He'll be here tomorrow. And we're going to try to enjoy ourselves this time. And I'm like really looking forward to not setting up a big elaborate, circus. It feels good to actually feels liberating, to be honest with you. Like I'm free at last.
Do you kind of feel like a rock
relax.
star? Do you kind of feel like a rock star where you've been in all these different cities? It takes you a little bit of time to remember where you are and what day it is. You kind of make fun of these people that are out all the time doing concerts, and then all of a sudden you're in those shoes going, now where am I again? What day is it today?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you feel like it's a little bit exaggerated, but it's not, unless you've actually got to experience, insomnia, just tirelessly the hours that we put in. I mean, I think a lot of people thought maybe we were on vacation half the time because we make it look like glitz and glam. But it's the hours, the hours and lack of sleep and the work that we put in and to try to figure out where we're at. Yes. I know I can't say that I've gotten like this rock and roll ego rolling right now. If anything, it's more of an insecurity that I got to get my ass back home and get back to work kind of feeling.
Right. Because you're in Fort Lauderdale in March and everybody's going, oh yeah, that sounds like it's really difficult. Yeah.
River. Poor Mike.
Yeah. Right. That's hard.
Poor Mike is in Fort Lauderdale and has to work.
Because in Minnesota, I mean, it's beautiful up here. Sunny out, beautiful reflection off of the snow. Yeah. All that kind of stuff.
Well, PA's not much better, but we haven't had snow. It's been a light winter, but cold. So getting home from Fort Lauderdale, it was 27 degrees in Pennsylvania. It literally made me feel like I was sick. Like, I don't know, or my body just crashed. I think I finally crashed. Like, I think I've been on a high for the past 2 or 3 months. And Saturday night, so we got home, I think Saturday morning, and I crashed. Like my body just was, my legs were sore, my back was sore, my head hurt. And I just went to bed for probably 12 hours straight when I got home,
It,
and felt better Sunday.
it was 8 degrees when I got back from Fort Lauderdale. So, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's climbed all the way up. I think it hit 32 today. So we're back into the balmy.
Good. Isn't it funny how you kind of learn how to tolerate that? Because like the following day, I think Sunday was like almost 40, 37-ish. And it was like, oh man, this feels pretty good,
It's
compared to the day before.
yeah, it's a high
Yeah,
sun this time of year, right? So it
yeah, right,
warms the soul a
right.
little bit more.
And not much roofing's going on over in your neck of the woods this time of year. What times that usually crank up?
It really depends. So March, people don't really realize this, but March is typically our snowiest month. Now it's been a pretty snowy winter generally, but yeah, we kind of end up with the home show season and the conference season and all the season going, but usually about mid-April is when things start cranking again.
Okay, cool. We're kind of blessed, I think, up in Pennsylvania because it can be 4 seasons in one day, usually all year round. So, I mean, the roofing season doesn't really stop. Now, when the weather does start to get cold, it's windy, it's cold, it's rainy, we tend to get more backed up and things just tend to move slower, but we don't stop. Due to circumstances, we tend to just slow down and things like that. And which kind of might be a good segue into one of our topics tonight. It's like, one of the things as a roofing contractor, over the winter months, that's one of the things that, that we have to deal with. We gotta bale hay when the sun's out over, spring, summer and fall and coming out of the winter months as, revenue has slowed down and, and what do other contractors do? That seems to be a thing that not many people talk about. Like, how the first quarter kind of sucks, profit margins are down, revenue is slow. What has people done over the years to sustain themselves? And I'm kind of curious if maybe that's why, at least for the northerner roofers, like why maybe the percentage of roofing contractors don't last longer, opposed to, or the, 1 to 5 year, it seems to be maybe that was I don't even know what made me think of that today. I was just thinking that today of, it's like it's starting to warm up, which means the guys are getting back on the roofs. Revenue is going to start coming in. The profit margins are going to start looking better. And I guess that's probably why I thought of it, because that's been one of our woes for the past 15 years. It's like that struggle of, you try to save as much money as you can to sustain yourself over the winter months and do what work you can. But it's not always the prettiest.
Yeah, but we all suck at saving money, right? And so you do what you can to plan ahead, and the plans never fall through. So, or they always fall through. But, I come from, you and I talked about this a little bit in one of the myriad of conferences that we were at, but you and I are kind of old school. We go back to the hand nailing days. And I remember, late 90s, early 2000s when, I started my company and I was it's not the sexy roofing companies that we see today with the lifted trucks and the, big sales teams and the huge production companies. And, I was out, I remember those days and very vividly jumping in my truck and picking up the guys and heading out to the job site going, it is 3 below actual temperature. Are the guns even going to work today? Because you don't have that opportunity. And, we were working at those days, $280 a square was a pretty good price to be working, back then. And, it's a different world today than it used to be. But, when you talk about making hay, when you can make it, when you can make it, man, there was a time it wasn't like that. I mean, you worked all year long or you didn't get paid.
Yeah. No, and that's kind of the mentality that definitely for sure that I grew up in. And I think that's why we do what we do all winter long, is because that's what I'm accustomed to. And like you said, 3 degrees, are the guns going to work? And that was before, like you said, we were hand nailing, and that was before the condensation collectors that you put on before it goes to the compressor. Like your hoses get plugged into this adapter, which then goes into the condensation collector. So that cold air or that heat, I guess, that's produced from the gun blowing through the hose that's going to freeze. And people don't know it. The tanks freeze at night, especially if you don't let the air out because of the condensation in the tanks and stuff. And those are the things that we battled.
So,
you know,
and I don't know. I mean, some of the stuff you just make up as you go along, but you'd put the pneumatic oil in the guns and you'd put antifreeze in the hoses and hope that they didn't, hope it all works, and I remember so many of the days, and I figured out early on, because you couldn't get these gas compressors working or to run. So I would put it underneath I would leave the truck running for a 10 minutes or so, put the compressor right underneath the exhaust to warm it up enough just so you could pull the string and get it going. But oh man, you're bringing me back. Like, this is what great memories that I never want to think about.
I know. So what got you into that? So that's something that we've never really talked about, like your past. I know the last time you were on the show, I busted your ass about the whole GAF thing, but let's go back a little bit. Like what was your introduction to the construction world?
Yeah, it was
was your dad or your third generation roofing contractor, or is it just something? Give me the scoop.
No, I grew up on a hog farm in Iowa, actually, and I had just graduated high school, and it was 1992. My dad really wanted me to join a road crew, so I got my class 2 license and tanker endorsement, and tried to get it. I spent a week trying to get hired on a road crew, doing it the old school way that way, and it just didn't. They weren't hiring, and it was raining a lot. And so my uncle actually called me and said, "Do you want to join me roofing?" And like, okay, it's better than hanging around looking for a job. So it was the week after I graduated high school, 1992 was probably, May, June, whatever it was. And got in the truck, got asphalt in my blood, and it's never come back out. So I'd spent my 4 years of college talking about Fort Lauderdale, talking about, spring break, Easter break, fall break, Thanksgiving, Christmas, every single break I spent going back out and working and shingling salt domes. We drove around the country, lived out of a suitcase, worked 14, 16-hour days. It was some of the hardest days, but it taught me work ethic and taught me how to, get it done right. Get it done quickly as much as you could. And man, that was 31 years ago. So
wow. That's crazy how time flies, doesn't it? To even be able to say 30 years ago,
I know.
And you being at an age of adulthood, you know what I mean? Like 30 years ago, like I can say that. And I caught myself the other day saying, man, that had to have been about 15, 20 years ago. And I was like, wait, dude, that was like 30 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
And to be able to say that and all of the things that we've experienced over the years and have gotten through, like the crazy stuff, the things like you were talking about earlier, like, yeah, I remember starting the van up and keeping the compressor in there until the tanks thawed out, and actually literally keeping the compressor in the van with the windows down and keeping it running in the van while we were working just to keep it from freezing.
Yeah.
And making sure that the nails were being set properly in the shingles and making sure that they weren't overdriven and just doing it right. I mean, we were still doing it right, but we were killing ourselves literally out in, like you said, 0 degrees. But it's funny how your body starts to be able to tolerate it. Like what I used to call it, like the interno inferno. Like the first thing in the morning, it sucked. But by the time you got the compressor out, threw the hoses up there, got the ladder off the truck, ran up there, did what you had to do, about an hour into is when that interno inferno started to just, start chugging along. Got a couple coffees in my head and not roofer coffees, but regular black coffee. And according to Josh Bigger, his roofer's coffees, probably Bud Light or whatever Canadian beer, Bush, knowing him, probably Bush Light or something. But anyhow, not to get off topic, and he's a cool dude, by the way.
Well, and you think about some of the safety equipment that we have now. I mean, we weren't messing around with that kind of stuff back then, and the number of times that I slipped off of a roof, realizing that rocks are round, that's always a valuable lesson to learn. And, when ice and water shields started becoming a thing, and the granulated surfaces that were on there and how slick those could be. And, you actually didn't mind working in the winter a little bit because you had a little bit of snow to land in when you fell off the roof. So, that's a different world than we're talking about today.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and the thing, like you said, and the laws back then and were different too. Maybe they weren't so different. Maybe they just weren't enforced as much as they are now because of things happening over the years. And you know as well as I do, all it takes is one bad apple to spoil the whole bunch. So, you know, get a couple incidences or accidents, you know, some deaths, you know, because let's face it, what we did and what we do is not safe. It's dangerous. It's one of probably, I know insurance companies don't like us as roofers. I mean, they do probably because our premiums are so goddamn expensive.
Right.
Between injuries, workers' comp, and then general liability as well, as far as lawsuits and stuff, especially on multifamilies. You know, and these are all things, if you want to do it right, you know, if you want to do your business correct, you have to have these things in place. You know, you have to have workers' comp on your people. You got to have general liability. You got to have the proper, you know, insurances and stuff like that, and the safety equipment, right? So back then, would we nail 2x4s on the roof, and that
Yeah.
was acceptable. No
Yeah.
ropes, no nothing. And like you touched on with the snow, I actually liked it when there was snow on the roof, because especially if it was like 6 inches or deeper, like that would give you traction to like get up to the peak to get to start shoveling off. Like you could create like steps in the snow, and people then you tell people or kids that, like, get your ass up there, man, and start
Right.
shoveling that stuff off. It's like
Right.
they would look at you like you're crazy. And it's like, you know, back then it's like if we didn't do it, somebody else would have did it and
Yeah.
we wouldn't have got paid,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And that was the way that we were taught,
Yeah, and let's be
you
honest. I
know.
mean, what's happened over the next, over the next 30 years is that we've become more professional, right? And you're a wealth builder right now, and you look at some of the manufacturers and the distributors that have dedicated so much time and money into helping this industry become more professional and doing things right, paying attention, actually reading the instructions. How crazy is that? Read the manufacturer instructions and the pro field guides of the world, and actually learning your craft, and
Yes.
have a contract. How crazy is that? And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's a different world in the space today. And
It really is. And training, you know, you touched on it there a little bit. We call the field guide the Bible. That's
yeah,
the GAF Bible. And so many people, I'm a big fan of GAF. So we call it the Bible, and we feel like a lot of other single manufacturers try to copy that, you know, and it either meets or exceeds, you know, standards, you know,
yeah,
as far as shingle manufacturing, installation instructions or local codes and stuff that we have to follow. I feel as if you're following the field guide, the pro guide, um, you're going to be spot on, or you're going to exceed the expectations of the local authorities, code enforcement, and things like that. Back then in the day, we didn't have that kind of stuff. It was just what our grandfather or what our dad or our uncles or our brothers or the guy down the street told us how to do things, and how small minded back then they were, and how small minded. And I'm not saying that in a negative light. There was just that way that they did it. And that was the way that we were taught. And I think the mentality back then too is like that's the way that we always did it. And rolling into what you said, you know, how much more professional we're trying to make this.
yeah. And I have a personal experience with that as well, that put me in a different place, because I was served papers like in 2003, 2004, something like that. And I was being sued for $450,000 on a multifamily that we had done new construction. And, for a little guy like me that was just, still shingling installing my own shingles, it was incredibly fearful, fearful to me. This is someplace I'd never been before.
Mhm.
And that's what got me into the pro field guide for the first time. And, cause I look at a Bible, by then I'd already been doing it for, 10, 11 years, thinking that I knew everything there was to know about shingling. And
Mhm.
that document saved me, because I went through there step by step, and everything that I was being accused of, I went, well, this is that page, and this is this page. This is how you do it, And so being able to give that to the attorney and taking that to court, and only to come to find out, and this is what I think a lot of homeowners or people out there that are not in the industry don't understand what it's like to be in business for yourself. Like, you have a huge target on your back, and you never know where that arrow is going to come from. In this particular project, the homeowners association didn't like the driveways, and the privacy fences. So they sued everybody on the project, and suddenly I'm being served papers for $450,000 as a as an LLC, and going, this destroys my life if I lose this. And but then going and I was actually able to again, this is disappointments, when you're feeling with this, and you're like, and you kind of go to, it takes you to a different place. But I went and spoke with an attorney. He actually let his expert that he had hired, let him go, and he let me be in on the entire process. And I remember the judge coming in and saying, I know they want this much, and we want to settle this as far as today, as much as we can. And I want you to really put your best offer forward, because everybody's getting sued, and we're going to try to make it to I think they wanted 1.3 million. And he said, I've looked at all the evidence, and I want you to really come out with a strong offer. And he said, I think you should really consider seriously offering $15,000. And the attorney that was working with me had already told me that the insurance company was already prepared to offer 60,000. Wow. But when you're in those rooms and you're like, no, I don't even want 15 grand. What is this? Yeah. I did nothing wrong. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't.
Yeah, I got a similar story. And but I was gonna ask you before I got into that, if you're in business for yourself and a small business owner, man, there's definitely some horror stories that we go through, and sometimes it makes us and sometimes it breaks us, and a lot of times it depends on if we want to keep fighting through it or not, or just throw our hands up and give up. But like, how did you get through that? Did you eventually just cough up the money? Did you turn it over to the insurance company, or how did you handle it? And so, twofold question: what would you have done differently?
Yeah, I mean, and so this is really what the start of what became a new career for me with GAF, and what has continued to drive me and fuel me even to today. I didn't know what to do. I had no clue. I get served these papers for $450,000. I have no idea what my first call is. And I can't remember who I did call or how I ended up, but I just called the insurance company first. And they said, don't worry, Mike, we got it from here. And legitimate. And that was really it. And I don't know if it still works that way today, but I had no clue who to turn to, what to do, who to ask questions, where to find help. This particular one worked out fantastic. I can't imagine doing anything different, but I think my mind worked a little bit different too, where, I kind of knew enough about my trade. I knew that what was happening. I knew where every nail was in those roofs. And so that was a little bit different too, because I knew how they were built. I was there, I built them. So for me to go back and document everything, I don't think that's normally, especially in the early 2000s, late 90s, I don't think that's the first thing that you do is go document, the claim, or document what you're doing. But that kind of came second nature to me early on. And so, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think I kind of skated through that one with very little friction, and I don't know that I would even do anything different. But to be in the dark and to be as lost as I was has really, when I became a GAF rep then in 2010, that's really what I wanted to do for any customer that I came across, or any contractor. I want to see these guys that, the stats are going to say they're not going to make it 3 years. I want to make sure my guys make it to the 7-year, 10-year, 15-year mark, because they know who to turn to. They know where to get information, and they know, have a little flashlight, in the darkness. So,
a little help navigating.
Yeah.
Through this. Sure. Yeah, for sure. And I think we all go through sometimes expensive lessons, right? And unfortunately, a knucklehead like me, sometimes it takes an expensive lesson for me to learn. And a lot of times we just don't know. And I think ego and pride gets in the way too, sometimes, where we just don't even want to ask questions, because we want everybody, at least for me, want everybody to think that I know everything, and I know the answers to all the questions, and just shut up and listen to what I say and just do what I say, kind of thing. And that's gotten me in some jams quite frequently over the years too. And pretty much has made me the person that I am today. And talking about like one of my scarier experiences, if you don't mind me sharing one of my experiences, it's expensive lessons learned was workers' comp. Uh, so we had some subcontractors in 2011. The insurance laws changed, and the workers' comp was really cracking down. We were being audited. Like if you had a workers' comp policy, all of a sudden these people came out of the woodwork, and they wanted to audit, who we were paying that didn't carry. If they weren't an actual W-2 employee, they wanted us to pay 25 cents per every dollar we paid them. I was like, what? That's not going to happen because I don't have that kind of money. My house isn't even worth that kind of money. Like I don't even have that much assets. So that was a pretty scary time. We had multiple subcontractors, just like today. We couldn't do what we do without having reliable, consistent subcontractors that work for us on a daily basis. And we paid a lot of money to these guys. Some of these guys, 6, 8 figures. And so nobody knew anything. I'm calling attorneys up, right? And you got your ambulance chasing attorneys that know everything else about workers' comp if you get hurt, but not if the Department of Labor and Industries banging on your door. And I felt like I was being extorted. I'm like, look, nobody got hurt. Like I don't understand like why you want money from me now from something that happened 3 years ago. And it was just a mess. I had no idea what to do. And I'll be honest with you, my insurance guy, who's still my insurance guy today, I've known him forever. He's been a great broker to us, has been a great partner and asset to our company. Started to just do a little bit of research and stuff. And he helped us navigate through this. And it was like, listen, so every dime of that didn't go towards his people. Like some of that stuff had to go towards his overhead. So like he started like nitpicking the money, dissecting it, like how much went towards fuel, how much went towards vehicle insurance, tires, all this other stuff other than payroll to his guys. So we got it knocked down significantly. So at that point in time, that was a huge growing pain for us because we had to actually convince our subcontractors back then that they were going to have to get their own workers' comp insurance because everybody had general liability. It was cheap. Right. But when you start talking WC with insurance companies and then you throw the word roof in there, forget about it. If you're doing it right and you want to have a good policy, forget about it. Like you got to go through, at least in the state of Pennsylvania, it's called the State Workers Insurance Fund, SWIFT, which is like the worst, most expensive. You got to run through that policy for at least 24 months before you can actually go to a broker and ask them to get you workers' comp insurance. So we went through this huge learning curve, this huge growing pain of trying to convince our subcontractor. So the following year, we kind of got whacked again. And I could have lied on the audit and stuff like that, but there was a couple subcontractors that it was a little hard for us to, and I should have probably stopped using them, but we were so busy. And they kept saying, we'll get it, we'll get it, we'll get it. And I'm a softie, all right, make sure you have it by next Friday. And then finally we ended up putting our foot down because I got whacked again. It's been a good thing because since then people have gotten hurt on our job sites. We do multi-families, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5-story tall buildings, and people get injured. And fortunately with the layers of insurances, it's a lot cleaner of a process other than if you didn't have insurance. And of course we've had the shoe on the other foot too. But anyhow, not to take the show hostage, I just thought it was funny because you were talking about a lawsuit, and it's like, listen, I almost lost everything because of State Workers Insurance Fund. The biggest mafia in the world was like banging on that's at least how I felt. I'm like, dude, I'm being extorted for money that was like spent 4 years ago. Yeah, you know what I mean? But all of a sudden you just veer your ugly head and you want to dip into my pockets.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you hit one of those walls where grace, forgiveness, mercy do not exist. Like that's not a word for some people. And yeah, that can be a rough go.
Yeah, it could be worse than domestic retaliations for those, because I actually went through that one when I was a little bit younger too, where they came after me too when I was younger, on my first child. But anyhow, the woes, the struggle was real.
Right.
So let's get into your transition into the GAF world. So you were introduced. How were you introduced to GAF, and how did you get on board with GAF?
Yeah. So, I had become kind of a GAF contractor. I was certified but I really hit it off well with my local territory manager, and he and I became really very good friends, and kind of beyond just being the rep for me. And I think that's always something that you hope for, to have that kind of relationship with your distributor reps and with your manufacturer reps. And then I was having lunch with somebody and found out that he was getting promoted, and that there was a position that was opening up. And I said, well, who's taking his place? And by this time I think I was at 35. I'd never been given a paycheck that had deductions in it. Like, I had been a entrepreneur my entire life. I had always been my own boss and owned my own companies. And when I put my hat in the ring and said, I don't even know what this thing is. Benny Fisher has a story similar to this too. Like, I mean, that sounds like fun. I think I know how I do that.
Mhm.
And so I put my hat in the ring and did not get the job. So I was passed over, and they hired a couple. And actually, there was 2 positions that opened up simultaneously. I didn't get either one of them. So that's how bad of an interviewer I was. But it was that point where I really realized that, because of the disappointment that I was feeling at that point, I was like, man, I think it's really time for me to get out of doing this roofing thing, because I was 35. You talk about that morning when your body just kind of loosens up and you just have a go time. Once I hit 35, my body was not recovering anymore. And so I was in pain all the time, and 2 knee surgeries and shoulder surgery. It was just, I was a mess. But still going strong. But and then I got into about 8 months later, GAF had a composite decking division. I don't know if you knew that back in the day. So when they acquired Elk, they also acquired a composite decking division. And so I wasn't good enough to make the roofing crew, but I was good enough to be onboarded as a rep for the composite decking division. And that was my introduction into GAF. I did that for just less than a year. I was so bad that it took less than a year for me to close down that division of the company, and I was going to be losing my job at the end of the year. But I got a call again from Jim Welch, who was the regional at that time, and said, hey, I need a North South Dakota rep. Would you be willing to do that? It was literally days before I was getting losing my job there. And I said, absolutely. So I spent 3 years in North South Dakota, got promoted to the Twin Cities, and then got promoted to national accounts after that. So it was perfect for me. It was fun. It was a good ride.
Gotcha. So national accounts. So you were a little more than a TM?
Yeah. So I spent about 10, 11 years as a territory manager. And then right at the end. So I had dedicated my life to trying to make contractors' lives better. And one of the reasons, the easiest one for me, so this is when you're not a very smart person. And so it was stuff that I didn't know that I wanted to learn. And I'll always remember, we're cutting our teeth. We're trying to grow market share. We were trying to handle some of the storm restoration that was happening in the Twin Cities. And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know Xactimate. I really didn't know how it worked. I didn't know, how were these national guys coming into town and doing all of this volume. And people kept telling me, well, it's whoever's got the biggest rebate. If you want the business, you got to have a rebate. And I said, okay, well, let me find out if that's really true. And I started learning from people who knew a lot more about it than I did. And slowly grew more and more into understanding how it worked. And then plus combine that with some of the stuff that I got nerdy about, which was codes and manufacturer's installation instructions, and then understanding more and more about the insurance company, so that, by 2013, I was really working on that stuff. By 2020, really 2018 to 2020, I'd really kind of made a name for myself with GAF and converting a lot of business, especially the storm restoration business. And I kind of created this entire program within Minnesota. and saw extremely good results from it. And because of that, then I was kind of promoted into this national accounts with storm restoration focus that they were just building. And they came knocking October of 2021 and said, all right, you've proved it here on the local level. Let's see you take it national. And I kind of felt this is where my ego, you were talking about ego a little bit more. I think my ego kind of took over and said, I got this figured out. I know how this works. I remember even having the conversation saying, this is what I was born to do. Like, this is like the culmination of all my efforts for 30 years. This is my job. This is what I was born to do. And I think that ego ended up, I was going my own direction, and it was not a direction that GAF was going. So that went south in less than a year. And so that was ended up pretty quickly. It was just less than a year. It was about a year, almost exactly. But, the resignation came pretty quickly and swiftly, and suddenly I disappeared. I lost my phone. I lost my email. I just kind of disappeared. And some pretty dark days for me, because I was thinking that this was my future. This is what this is what God had created me to do.
Of course.
So,
right. Like I can only imagine you thought you were going to end up retiring there, but so you touched on a little bit about your ego and stuff like that, and that's very admirable of you to identify that, I guess, if that's the word that I wanted to use. But so many of us, it doesn't sound like you have a resentment towards them whatsoever. It sounds like that you've been able to identify, like, okay, like, look, this was my fault, like a growing point, right? And without pain, without growth, there's no growth without pain, at least for somebody like me. Like, I have to experience pain, and 99.9999% of the time it's self-inflicted pain. And I'm not saying bad shit doesn't happen to good people, but for someone like me, a knucklehead like me, who thinks that I got this figured out and I have arrived, you know what I mean? Like, I got to hit a brick wall, or someone's got to smash me upside the head. Right. And it's usually because I stuck my own foot in my mouth. And then I got to feel that pain, and I got to suffer some consequences from it. And then all of a sudden I think it's a good idea. Right. Even though you've been telling me to shut my mouth this entire time. I want to take the credit that, hey, I decided to shut my mouth now. But it sounds like you've humbled yourself, and I've always looked at you as a very humble dude. Soon to be the court jester of roofing.
heck yeah.
Is what we're gonna nickname you or label you as, is the Jets. What is it? The jest. Oh God, I can't even say
Court
it now.
jester. No, Boom Mike. Yeah, boom Mike.
Boom
That's
Mike.
me.
That's right. Somebody put that in there. Boom Mike. Boom Mike. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, yeah, it's it's cool that unfortunately it's like that door closed, but like two more opened up, right? And you want to talk about like what door opened up, or do you is there some more stuff that you still want to talk about with GAF, like maybe what you have learned through this process, like before you've gotten to ROOFLE? Let's talk about what you've experienced when you stuck your foot in your mouth, I guess, to now.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, I can't deny it was very hard. It was dark. By the time the door closed with GAF, like, I had no idea where I was going to go. And at that point, and I didn't have a phone, like I said, so nobody could, nobody had my phone number anymore. And so, but people found me. They reached out to me on Facebook or messaged me, or figured out my phone number from and that's where the community kind of comes out in support of me and my whole thing. And I could ask you, I mean, when you say things like, I am not going to burn a bridge. I'm not going to burn a bridge. And to some people that's weak, sometimes you got to burn the place down. And I never found value in that. And what I really appreciate, I have no hard feelings to GAF. I think I have been received back with a lot of open arms, and for that I'm very grateful. I have a lot of tremendous friends. Some of the greatest relationships of my life will always be there, and to be in a position where I didn't. Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I've so appreciated getting to know so many of the more people. I mean, it's just wonderful folks at Atlas and at Owens Corning and at IKO, and just being able to be a little bit free to speak with a broader audience has been such a blessing. And really looking back at it too, the thing that I've appreciated the most about the switch to ROOFLE has been I get to create again. And I don't take that soft at all. Like that was my favorite part of doing what I did at GAF, was creating something, which is the storm restoration, focus for my career. And now, I mean, it's technology, it's SaaS sales, it's websites. Like I don't know anything about that. I'm just a stupid roofer. I mean, I can shell nails and hand nail. I mean, but to be able to sit down and go, now I get to create again. Now I get to take a problem or a challenge and create and do it my way and be encouraged by our team. You've met the team that I get to play around with right now. And it's fantastic. It's
best people in the world.
Yeah. Best people in the world. And so many people have said they've noticed right away how much more fun that I'm having. And just, I've kind of whole different personality has come out over the last few months. Which, being able to play the court jester every once in a while has been a lot of fun for me.
Yeah. I love that, Mike. I really do. And you do have a great team that you work with. And, you're a perfect example of, how we can make any situation as worse as we want or as good as we want. And fortunately, at that time, you had a decision to make, and I'm sure you wanted to burn that place down. But you didn't. You decided to make that situation as good as you possibly could with the situation that you were dealt at that time. And I know for me, I've made situations worse than what they needed to be. Right. Yeah. Like I've made it worse, blew it out of proportion, and whatever they did to me, whatever I felt like they did to me, my actions would actually trump what happened to me. And like took the focus off them and put all the focus on me. But it sounds like you chose to kind of walk away quietly, I guess. And like you said, it has opened up actually more opportunities, and people are now warming back up to you, I guess, or you're receiving, the open arms, at this time. And it's just funny how, at least I call it how God works in my life today. And how this has opened up many, many other doors and opportunities and friendships to be developed, and the skills that you've learned. And I use the term, I'm a roofer. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm guilty. I think I even said it today. And after I said it, I thought, God, it's like, yeah, I'm a roofer and I'm proud of it. I'm proud that I'm a roofer. I used to say it in like a negative light. I did it myself, and it's like, Mike, yes, you're a roofer, bro, but you're one of the smartest people that I know. You know what I mean? So it's not a negative thing that you're a roofer. You're one of the smartest people that I know. And some of the smartest people that I do know is in the roofing industry. And I think you're a part of that movement, right? Like we need the Mike Goldensteins, we need the Travises, we need the Joe Hoffmans, pardon me. We need the Joe Salowitzes, we need the Chris Hofstras, we need the Tim Browns. You know what I mean? There's like this movement that's happening right now. Becca Schweitzer, you know what I mean? I had a great conversation with her at the Roofing Process conference, and like, we need her. We need the Benny Fishers. You know what I'm saying, in our industry, because we're trying to leave this place better than the way we found it. And I feel like you're that guy. And I feel like that's why we gravitated towards each other. And now you have an opportunity once again to improve the quality of another roofer's life with the product, the company that you work for. Like, this is your purpose. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, maybe you didn't know what your purpose, you thought you knew what it was, right? But now it's like, you know what? Now it's really being defined for you.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that, because when
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I feel like God put us on a path.
Yeah, one of the first people to reach out to me, and I appreciate all the words, man. That was very, very generous of you to say. That's fantastic. And you're absolutely right. And I do want to say, like, those relationships that I had that I fell back on during those tough times when I'm figuring out what's going on, with my career and what's going to happen next. And I had Joe, one of the first people that found out and reached out to me and said, Mike, this is perfect timing. I need you at ROOFLE. When do you want to start? And, I'd had a couple of conversations with some other people, and those were great opportunities as well. But so many of them is like, I'd already been down that path. There was a little bit of feeling, and having Joe reach out to me and say, I've got a perfect spot for you, and I need you to start, join my team. I kind of knew what ROOFLE was. I didn't really, but I kind of knew. And Joe said, trust me, this is going to be huge. And I trusted him, and I'm like, all right, let's do it. I have no idea what this is. And I had seen it. I was impressed, whatever, but I didn't really understand it. And then a couple of weeks into it, I'm like, holy crap, like, this is really good. And then working with Travis, it's always weird to work for a boss and introduce to a boss. Are we gonna get along? Are we gonna sync? And he's one of the most fantastic people on the planet. Matthew and Brad, two of the most brilliant people on the planet. Working with this team has absolutely shown me that God is merciful. He does have a plan. And a divorce was probably the only way that I was going to ever move away from JF and into a opportunity like this. So can't say enough about how excited, the life after disappointment has been for me personally, certainly in the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Roof Quote Pro 2.0? Don't mind telling us.
Yeah, 2.0.
A little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have really focused on staying at the top of funnel in the lead generation space. So our focus and mission is to be that ability, that technology that installs on a contractor's website to be able to give a compelling reason for your web traffic to push that button and give you their contact information. So many times, so many websites have, click here, giving you all your information, and we will give you a free inspection. And nobody's really compelled to push that button. About 2 to 4% of the time, if you're lucky. They're just not that interested in giving all their contact information for a free inspection or an invite into their home. That's kind of yesterday. It's just not happening as much today. So what we do is we already have the measurements of every structure, up to 10 structures on a piece of property. So when a homeowner puts in their address, their house, their buildings pop up. We've already got the measurements for them. And we use 8 different data sources to do that. So we're not even really all that concerned about aerial measurements all the time. So it's, and then we marry those along with the contractor's value proposition. So whatever manufacturer they're using, which other products, whichever warranties, enhanced warranties, even if they want to do, roof rejuvenation or ice dam removal, whatever, they can create cards, they can sell anything that takes a roof measurement, they can create into an online experience for the 80% of adults in America today are doing their investigation for projects, exterior, interior, buying a car, buying a TV, buying everything, whatever they do, they are doing their investigations online. Now you are capturing that audience of the 80% and at least giving them a starting point for where they go. And that is an instant estimate on their particular roof. And you're not sharing that lead with anybody. It's generated by your website, on your website, for you and you alone. The response has been tremendous. Everybody from the owners saying, the dozens of leads that they're being generated in just the first, few days that they have it on there, to the salespeople who are saying these are the best qualified leads we've ever had. They're not in competition with, multiple contractors on it. And for the price that is a fraction of what they're typically paying for leads at that point. So 2.0 also, we are integrating into it two different things. It's first and foremost is financing. We do have a financing partner now that's integrated into it. So now when homeowners are getting a first look at a price of what their roof replacement would look like, they're also being able to do a soft pull, pre-qual financing. So when you get that lead, you also see how much they would qualify for financing. So it's about as hot of a lead as you could possibly get. And also we have a version of it for those of you who don't want to push traffic to your website. You can actually do it to your door knockers or your canvassing teams and put it in that power into their hands. And again, these are fantastic programs to do in conjunction with companies like Lead Scout and with Hook Agency. Hook Agency is great to help you with your SEO and driving your website. Traffic to your website, and Lead Scout is fantastic for your canvassing team. They really work well in conjunction with each other, and we're seeing tremendous success and tremendous response to people who have already put that on their website and seeing great results from it. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I know we're excited here at TC Backer. I guess I'll let the cat out of the bag that we got ours built out. And super excited about it. And we're going to use it in many multiple ways, some of which you mentioned. Lead Scout's one of them. We'll use it on our website. Of course, we're going to use it with Lead Scout with a QR code in our Post-it notes and stuff like that. But I didn't know about the financing portion of it. That seems that's very interesting. Who's the financing company, if you don't mind me asking? Like, who are you using? Mosaic, Moment? Or
yeah, we've been in contact with most of them, and I think a lot of people see our technology and like we want to be part of it. So we're definitely going to have more coming forward. You know, that we've talked to Mosaic, we've talked to Service Finance, we've talked to Heritage. There's a lot of different ones that we've talked to, but we did start with Moment. There's a couple of reasons why we did that. First and foremost, they are able to do a soft pull. That's super important in our minds for that online consumer experience. We want to be able to have them get an idea if they qualify for financing and how much, and then also that loan stays with the contractor so that the homeowner isn't able to flip the tables on that and start shopping that price. So those are two huge points of that we liked about that, and so that's the first one, and then we're excited about integrating more of them as well, because as you know, contractors have a hard time switching. So if you do have financing already, there are ways to do that currently. We're just going to make those easier and easier going forward as well.
Okay, so if we already have a financing company that we use, you can kind of bolt that on, for lack of better terms, into your program.
Yeah, for sure.
Platform, I guess, for us contractors.
Yeah. There's different places where you can put the hyperlinks into that process, and the homeowners can get an instant, or however your financing works. You can put that right into your estimate and get the same information. It's just not integrated into our software quite yet.
Yeah. No, and I like the point that you had mentioned there, that they do a soft pull. Moment does that soft pull. That's huge, because I know, a weirdo like myself, I hate getting my credit pulled. Hate it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to go buy a car or something like that. They just like rip through. Next thing you know, you got like 15 points whacked off your hard-earned credit score and stuff like that. But for someone to be able to do a soft pull before they go digging deep into that, and let's say you don't even get finance, and let's say you got like a 625 credit score, right? And they go ahead and do a hard pull, and then they whack you for 15 points. Now all of a sudden you're down to 610, which might take, could take 3 to 6 months for that to come back. So to do the soft pull, I think that is a very, very important point that you had brought up. And I also heard this about Moment, that they do take a lower credit score. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike.
Yeah, that's outside of my comfort zone. I have no clue. I mean, I've been fairly.
That's fair.
Yeah, I have been.
I think I heard that today. I think Glenn said something to me about that today, because we're looking into a new financing option to offer our homeowners, because the one that we have now, I just feel like we have our hands tied. I think we've maxed out maximize as much as we possibly can, and we're just kind of searching for other options. I want several options that, a second chance, a second look type of option, especially nowadays. Everything seems to be financed but a roof, and it seems like the roofing industry has a little dated on that. Like, we need to get caught up on that. Like you said, e-commerce, like everybody's buying everything online. So if you're not offering financing, and a great person to talk to that about is Chris Scoville. I mean, he's Mr. Roofing Financer.
He really is. Yeah.
Right there. I mean, he knows, if you want to know anything about that stuff, that guy right there, big shout out to him, knows everything. So before we get off here, Mike, I should have asked you this. I kind of put the cart before the horse, but and I don't think you touched on it much, but when Joe hired you at ROOFLE, what was it that you were supposed to do? And does it look like what you're doing? Like, is that what you're doing now? Like, what are you doing? Where do you fit in at ROOFLE?
Yeah. So I am the,
What did he hire you to do?
yeah. Well, it's VP of revenue, and I think VP is vice president of revenue. So I'm just I'm the guy that, I'm the guy that gets along with people. Can I say that? Like, I'm the one that goes out and talks with affiliates and manufacturers and distributors. And, we have a great message, and I want to get it out as quickly as possible and as loudly as possible. And so I feel like the best way that I can do it is through the friendships and the relationships that I currently have. And so that's my role, is to get the word out and do it in as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So partners like you and Lead Scout and Hook and, and GAF and Atlas and, all of these people are so important to our message. And really, I want to tell you why, because, the technology is here, and I think we've proved it. And there's already some people that are getting into the space as well. And some of them are not as kind as others, and some of them don't play in the sandbox quite like others. And so we really do want to get this on every contractor's website that wants it, and as quickly as possible, so that those that market share can be protected within the local contractor market. Because and I say this a lot, people don't hate Amazon because of their service or their selection or their products or they don't hate Amazon. I mean, we all use Amazon. If people hate Amazon, it's because they own the market and there's nobody else there. And really, I hope contractors can see that is a risk. That is a risk. If you're not in the helping the online consumer get what they want to the local level, you will lose it to the national level. And so we're pretty passionate about that we want to capture that, help the local contractor capture that market share before it's lost to somebody else.
Cool. Yeah, because if you look at your job title, Vice President of Revenue, it makes me think of, like, you're the not the CFO, but like more so the financial controller, right? So was this a name that you came up with because you couldn't pull anything else out of your ass, or because I feel like you're more in a role of customer relations? Like, you're the guy that knows everybody. And I think that was a good move on Joe's part, because I'm sure people that a lot of people probably don't know, who to call, the guy or gal, I just revenue, or you're the guy that knows these relations that's going to bring the revenue in.
Yeah. I'm the rainmaker. Can we say that? I'm the rainmaker.
Yeah. Okay. VP of rainmaking.
Yeah. And we talk about this a little bit with the shows, right? I mean, if you have 14,000 people at a show, IRE, for example, and you have 6 people in the booth, it's a long haul to try to get 14,000 people to know your message, to hear it, and you do the best that you can, and you handle the crowds as much as, and the traffic and all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't matter if you're Win the Storm, SRC Summit, Roofing Process, RoofCon, they all are part of the branding that the word that we're trying to get out there. But you're still using a garden hose to fill up a great big swimming pool. So as VP of Revenue, what I'm trying to do is trying to get a bigger fire hose to try to get out the word a little bit quicker. So my job is to, get that exponential growth get the word out to the people who will get the word out, right? So so we're trying to grow the branches of the tree nice and wide, so before it's too late, right? Because there are some very deep pocketed people out there that would love to see and get piece of the revenue stream that is in the roofing industry right now. So if that's a fair assessment of the job. But beyond that, that's what's been really fun, because we kind of make it up as we go, and they've put a lot of faith in me and a lot of trust. So
yeah. No, and I get that. I believe me, I understand that on your side and Joe's side, like, of making it up as you go. And you seem to be a quick adapter, to be able to go out and make shit happen. And, it's just, it's, shit, I lost my train of thought there for a second, but, oh, fuck. I totally lost
well, that's
my train
okay.
of
But
thought.
let's go back to this. I do want to mention this, because I do, we talked about, having the opportunity to get in front of as many people as possible. And I do appreciate you having me on here. And I, as hard of a grind as that was, I do want to shout out to the people who do have a passion to train the masses, and they put together these events. And, that was kind of when we first started talking about doing this thing,
Yes.
it was,
Thank you. Yeah.
It's one of those things that, you do the best that you can, you put yourself in front of as many people as you can. But when it comes to actually pulling off some of these events, some are miracle workers, but stuff happens and disappointment happens, and it doesn't happen the way that you wanted it to. But it's one of those things that I appreciate as a vendor. I appreciate people who want to put groups of contractors together so that we have an access to them, and show them what we have and how important of what we feel is our technology to be giving to the masses as well.
Yeah. No, and that's a good point. Not everything's going to go exactly the way that you want it to go. And we experience that a lot at TC Backer. When we go to home shows, we just had one over this past weekend. It was down in Frederick, Maryland. It was in like 8 different buildings. Nobody knew where to go. Like, the venue was crap, right? The team didn't bitch. We had a business meeting on Tuesday. We talked about it, and it was like, my first response was, okay, it's a learning lesson. What could we have done differently? Where could we have positioned ourselves? Where did we play a role in this? Like, how did we handle it ourselves? And what can we get from it? Because like you said, there's a lot of moving parts, especially as big as they tried to do, whether, not to take the show hostage again, but it's like, okay, so you got to learn how to adapt and overcome situations, and not and get over it. Like, don't get stuck. And this is the thing I think a lot of people get jammed up on. It's like they get stuck on that 5%, right? That magic magnifying mind blows that 5% when 95% of everything else over here is like going so great. Right? Like they're not capitalizing. And let's reverse that a little bit. Let's say 95% of it is going to shit, right? But there's 5% of it that's going good, but like they can't figure out a way to like capitalize on that and to be an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur or manager or leader or trainer or coach or whatever you want to label yourself as at one of these shows. If you sit around and get upset and lose that creative thought of like, how can I make the best of this situation? Yeah, it's going to be shit. But I think a lot of that has to fall back on you. I mean, we do things all the time and it doesn't quite work out. But if you really look at it, it's like, okay, well, we just got 3 leads out of that. We just made 3 more relationships that we didn't have before. And we all know relationships are today's currency. I've had relationships that go back 20 years. I still call this guy up or text him, this one particular gentleman, and thank him just randomly out of the blue. I still give him the credit where credit's owed for helping us be who we are today, because not just him, but the relationships that were created because of networking with him, through him, right? So let's say we only got 3 leads. There were supposed to be 10,000 people at this show, 1,500 show up. But let's focus on that 5% for a minute, the positive 5%, the 3 people that we did meet. Now we have new relationships. And if you do a good job, that 3 should turn into 9 more relationships, right? Is that kind of where your head was, Mike?
Yeah, 100%. And, and I came across a stat a few weeks ago, and it said that Tony Gwynn could go, I got to remember the number. I think it was like 0-700 and still would have ended with a career batting average over 300, which means he could have played for an additional 3 seasons, not gotten a single hit, and still would have ended with a batting average over 300. So, and what that said is, if you're consistent over a long period of time, you will see grace in those failures, and so again, going back to what you were saying about relationships, if you're consistent with your relationships and you're not burning bridges, it's amazing what's going to happen when you do start making mistakes or some stuff starts happening. You'll be surprised at how much grace is going to be shown back to you in hindsight for that history of relationships and the history of consistency that you've shown over that time. And I think that's part of what has, helped me in my transition. It's helped you, I'm sure, in a million different ways as well. Mm-hmm. And that's what we can really fall back on. And when you have situations like, an ice storm in Texas, who could have figured that? And, computers going down in, thousands, tens of thousands, possibly, contractors stuck outside of the vendor show. You can't make it up, and there's every single show I think we went to had a very difficult, something happened, roofing process was had to move the dates, and you stay unemotional about it. You appreciate it for what it is. You take advantage of the people that are there, and you continue to grow those relationships. And that doesn't mean that, you do it again next year. Maybe you don't, but it's something to stay positive about and do better next time.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And what you were talking about, I call that the trust bank, right? Like we build up this trust bank, and every now and then we got to take a withdrawal from that, where we just might fail. We just might not meet your expectations, but you've built that trust bank up. And like you said, over time, you are shown grace, but hopefully at those times where you have to make that withdrawal, hopefully it's a learning experience, a learning lesson on how we can improve our process, how we can improve, how can we have a backup computer system if it crashes next time? How can we accommodate 10,000 people so it's not a 4-hour wait? What happens if there's an ice storm? I mean, I don't know what you could possibly do to for a backup plan on that. I mean, Mother Nature it could have been worse, but I mean, I thought that was one of the funner ones. I felt like, thank God we didn't run out of coffee. That was my biggest concern God, that Starbucks being open every morning. It's like they kicked ass. Like that was the thing. It's like, we didn't run out of food.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the venue did great. I mean, nobody can help. In April did a fantastic job, like always, and she's built that trust bank.
Yeah,
like her, love her, hate her, whatever. I mean, she's grinding away on that shit, and it's not easy. And she suits up and shows up, and there's got to be some sort of respect for that somewhere.
For sure.
I mean, like that's a lot of work. You know what I mean? On top of her other businesses and family and everything else. I mean, Christ, she could be doing, I'm sure, a hell of a lot of other things that's less uncomfortable with her time than bringing us all together and creating relationships, or Anthony or Hunter or Dimitri. I mean, that shit, I think most of them lose their ass anyhow on these things. Like they're doing it because we need these things, right? To collaborate. Like I would have never met you if it wouldn't be for half of these shows that go on and stuff like that. And it's not easy, man. And all the moving parts, like you're relying on so many people and so many variables, all the stars and sun and moon to align to make it a perfect show. And fortunately for us, like we weren't necessarily there selling anything. But some of our partners were with us at the time, and we were collaborating together to help try to promote their brand and vice versa and things like that. So, I mean, we were definitely on the forefront of like what was happening, but kept that tempo, that upbeat tempo moving and capitalized. You conquer, if you're going to conquer, you need to find, there's always opportunities, bro. I mean, always. Just it doesn't matter what the situation, an economic downturn, a piss poor ran conference, a freaking ice storm. There's opportunities there if you look around for them. And you just got to open your eyes. You know what I mean? Kind of take the blinders off and put the cotton in your mouth and keep your ears open.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And enjoy it. Enjoy the time.
Yeah.
Right. We live once, and you enjoy the
Yeah.
people that you're doing it with, regardless of the difficulties that are coming your way.
For sure, man. Well, Mike, we're at our hour mark here. It's been an hour and 10 minutes, man. Is there anything else that you want to leave us off with, or something that we probably forgot about that you want to get out there? You want to plug ROOFLE anymore? You got anything new and exciting coming up?
Yeah, keep watching out. Yeah, keep watching out. We're actually branding this thing Contractor Loan Pro. So it's going to be an open platform to be able to get financing from multiple lenders, and we want to make that as easy as possible for contractors to get financing for your projects. You don't necessarily have to be, always using it just through Roof Quote Pro. So it's really exciting stuff. It's fun to be part of a team that's very forward looking and has a history of being a contractor, so knows how to speak that language. And it's going to be it's been an absolute roller coaster of an adventure. And I just want to thank you for having me on here, and certainly want to thank my team for putting up with me. I mean, it's already been 6 months. It's probably feels like 6 years.
Right on, in a good way, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully.
in a good way, for sure. Well, Mike, it's always a pleasure, man. I enjoy your company, man, and I hope you feel the same way about me. I'm grateful that I've met you. I told Brad that probably 3 or 4 times. Brad, who's our TM, unfortunately won't be here this week with us, but I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow and collaborating and shooting the shit and getting some good laughs and some good gut laughs. I'm sure you got something up your sleeve. And I'm looking forward to hope not to put you on the spot to 10x something on me, but anyhow, dude, it's a pleasure, man. I'm grateful. I can't express to you how grateful I am that I've met you. Anytime when you guys get a little closer to your new process or program or platform that you have coming out, by all means, you're more than welcome. You and Travis or Joe or all 3 of you, I don't give a shit, are always welcome on the show. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate the hard work. Just a great group of people. And we also appreciate our fans for always tuning in week after week after week and putting up with our most recently time change of when we're broadcasting, but sticking in there and staying loyal. I see all the same faces in here and stuff. And we thank you guys. And Mike, I can't wait to see you tomorrow, man. So have a good night. Safe travels here, brother.
Chris, thanks for the hat.
Keep it rocking.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Good guys over there at Lead Scout. Chris Hofstra, Matt, and Joe Salowitz. You guys keep rocking too, man. It's a shame you guys couldn't have made it here. But anyhow, you have a great night, Mike. I'll see you tomorrow. Safe travels. And we'll see you guys next week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.